Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mr. Hicks Podcast. We are here getting it in once again, time and time again. We are here celebrating the end of the college football championship where you had Ohio State beat Notre Dame, and it was actually a really good game. I thought it was going to be an absolute blowout. We're starting to look at this first half. You started to see dominant performances by Quinsant Judkins. The run game looked like they had really, that Notre Dame, even though they have a great secondary, they decided they were doing the Texas thing where they said, like, okay, we're just going to shut down Jeremiah Smith and do what we can to try to hold down everybody else while we do that. But Judkins, 3 touchdowns. Will Howard, not a great statistical night, but was efficient as he needed to be as they closed the game out. But I learned a lot about those 2 teams and learned a lot about college football and the changing landscape. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what I believe is the end of the dominance of the SEC. The SEC has a lot going on. They always do. There's because you have such great football, such high school football in the South, in Texas now that has the two big boys from the state of Texas in the SEC. You're going to see great talent gravitate to the SEC schools, and I think it's been that way for a long time. But remember, there was a time when the SEC did not win the amount of championships that they have. With the factors changing. So I think with NIL and the collectives, we're going to see a significant change in where the talent goes, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So, one thing I wanted to talk about is with losing Nick Saban and also the entrance of the 12-team playoff, I think an immense amount of pressure has been taken off of SEC teams. You had to be perfect or darn near perfect to make a 4-team playoff because you have Alabama and you have Georgia. So it was like those 2 were monsters, and you would hope that they would take each other out. But basically, whoever of the 2 of them was winning of that game, if they played each other, was basically either going to knock each other out of the championship game, or they were going to knock each other possibly out of the 4-team playoff. To play for a national championship. Now that Saban is gone, it almost is like the SEC is kind of like, has like a sigh of relief. Like, we don't have to be perfect anymore. We can lose a few games and we can still make it in. We can go to the SEC championship game and lose and still make a 12-team playoff. The level of pressure that they're under in order to still have a chance to win a national title is not there anymore. So, also, that making that 12-team playoff now is like, I don't have to make the SEC championship game to ensure that I'm going to make a 12-team playoff. Now, you did have a few teams stumble at the end of the year. If Alabama beats Vanderbilt, if Alabama beats Arkansas, then if Ole Miss beats Arkansas, Alabama also lost to I believe it was Oklahoma at the end of the season. We're like a 5-win season. That was a win that they really should have had. And if they had it, they'd have made it into the championship without a problem. They really left the door open to let SMU into the 12-team playoff. Had those teams just handled their business, they would have been in. Because it's the SEC, because it is the toughest league, top to bottom, you have a couple losses. It's kind of understandable, especially when you added Texas to that, who was also very good and makes a semifinal. Then you can kind of understand having some losses. But we're not going to excuse losing to also-ran. We're not going to excuse losing to a team that you really should beat. Alabama losing, honestly, even if they lost to Oklahoma at the end, if Alabama had not lost to Vanderbilt beginning of middle of the season, they probably still would have got in. What are you doing? I understand they got a new coach and the dude is, I give him some time, though. He's replacing a legend. That's never a thing that anybody wants to do. You don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the guy, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't want to be, you don't want to be Gerard Mayo replacing Bill Belichick. You want to replace Gerard Mayo, which is what Mike Vrabel is doing. Whole other story there. So I think the SEC, the pressure is not there. So I think everybody's kind of let their foot off the gas. and they're not going to really strive to be as perfect as they kind of needed to be in order to make championships before. Also, I think the Big Ten is just going to pick off players. If you notice that Ohio State wins the national championship this year, they're already a very good recruiting team, but they went into the bag for NIL, and what do? They take Quinshon Judkins, probably the best running back in college football, and they take him from Ole Miss. And then they go to to Alabama, and they get Caleb Downs, one of the most talented players, a kid that walked into Alabama and was an immediate starter and ended up being a first team SEC and second team All-American as a freshman. Wrap your head around that. When Nick Saban can't keep you off the field, when the level of talent that's on that team is not enough to keep you off the field as a true freshman, you're a monster. You're a monster. And then you add that to Jeremiah Smith, who just is not human. I don't know. No, it'll make no sense. I'll get to him in a second. Hold on. I got to stay focused. So added to what was already elite recruiting, they went in the transfer portal and got 2 elite players out of the SEC. So not only did that make them a lot better, it also made Alabama worse. It made Ole Miss worse. So I'm just going to go to Texas. I'm going to go to Georgia. I'm going to go to those teams that are already really good, and I'm going to make myself better, and I'm going to make them worse. So it's like when I add to mine, I'm not just adding to mine from somebody else. I'm adding to mine from the place where I would have the most competition. So by going into the SEC and pulling the best players out of the SEC, I'm going to make the Big Ten better and the SEC worse. Not only is that, now look at what Michigan did this year. Michigan goes into Alabama and they take Justice Haynes, who was rushing for damn near 6 yards a carry, and just damn Alabama for not knowing how to run the damn ball. And then also, they end up getting this kid, Underwood, the quarterback, number 1 quarterback in the country, who is an absolute damn unit already as a 17-year-old. What the hell? I can't believe he's that big, like 6'5", 205 pound. Looks like he's a 5-year senior already. The size of him is just amazing. He's from Michigan. LSU just fell in love with him, decided they wanted the kid, and then Michigan just ponied up, and it was like, yeah, dog, he's from Michigan. And you ain't. I know you think you got money like that, but we're not up here selling crawfish and fried chicken, man. We Michigan. Our alumni base is so much, not necessarily bigger because Michigan. No, Michigan is public. It's public. What they call it, public Ivy. It's public. It's an elite academic institution. They have alumni all over the coast and some of the most prestigious businesses in the world. And when they will decide they want to pony up and get somebody, I don't think there's anything that LSU can do about it. I don't think there's anything Alabama can do about it. And I know the Southern schools are like, we have big NIL, we care about football, but there's a couple of SEC teams, there's a couple of Big Ten teams that got the donors, bro, that they got you beat. And then nobody wants to hear that, and they won't admit it, but they went and they took somebody out of he was going to go to LSU. He was all set to go to LSU when they were like, yeah, 12 mil. Okay. Yeah, Justice Haynes was at Alabama. Hey, man, you want to come up here and get this bread? We know how to run the football. We're not going to get all confused about our identity. This is Michigan. We know exactly who we are and exactly what we want to do. We want to run a rock, and you're going to be our guy. And that's exactly what happened. So not only are you going to have elite recruiting of those two programs, you've already got Oregon, who will pay whatever they have to pay. Phil Knight owns Nike, and he literally uses Oregon, the University of Oregon, as a tax shelter. When I need to get rid of some money to lower my tax bracket or some tax burden, I just donate money to build a building and redo something at University of Oregon. And he has literally said out loud in front of other humans, I want a national championship before I die. I don't care how much it costs. When somebody with that much money says, I don't care how much it costs, when you got Kirby Smart going like, man, I wish I could get some of that Oregon money. He's in Georgia. And he's jealous of the amount of money that NIL is getting thrown at. He's trying to holler at somebody, and they say like, yeah, so Oregon offered me another $1 million in that. But okay, have a good one. I can't run with that. I can't. You'd be like, the ops got me. If that's what the kids are saying, the ops. To get, I'm trying. Just please, just don't cancel me. So then there's another factor there as to why they're just getting picked off. They're going to wait and they're going to let those kids go to the SEC and go, oh, this is great. I'm at Georgia. I'm at Alabama. I'm at Texas A&M, whatever. And then Ohio State's going to be like, I'll give you $5 million to come up here and win a title with us. Okay. And that's all that's going to happen. And I believe the NIL and the collectives are kind of diluting the college football product. The SEC the talent used to be concentrated in a handful of teams to the point where you were seeing 6, 7, 8 5-star players all going to one team, and you're not seeing that anymore. Like, I pulled it up. Excuse me. That was a theory, so I wanted to pull it up and make sure that I got this right. So, all right, so National Signing Day, the early National Signing Day is coming on. So right now, the University of Texas, who won the SEC and made it to the semifinal of college football, the college football player this year, the amount of 5 stars they have. And those of you who don't know, 5 stars is basically the blue chip player. There are only 32 of those a year. And they used to be consolidated into a handful of programs. So this year, the SEC team with the highest number of 5 stars is Texas with 3. That's it. 3. So we want to take a look at this. We got Georgia with 2. Ohio State with 2. Alabama with 3. Oregon with 2. A&M with 2. Michigan with 2. Florida with 1. Tennessee with 1. Notre Dame with 2. Notre Dame has 14 4-star players. Good for you. Because I never thought I would see that much talent at Notre Dame, like, ever. So congratulations on doing that. Marcus Freeman really getting it in. But as you can see, that 5-star talent is now dissipating. It's now going all over the place. Because and also you talk about NIL and you talk about the transfer portal. That kid that went to Texas A&M in a big recruiting class where there was a bunch of talent, that kid is saying, like, I'm a running back at Texas A&M, right? From 2021. I was a 4-star. Well, not all 4 stars are kind of built the same. And if there's a class of running backs that's just not that great, well, then now the next year's class of running backs is really great. And they got a 4-star from that class, and that kid's better than me. I mean, even though I've been here for a couple of years, he's coming out the gate. He's already better. So now I don't have to just sit here and be depth for Texas A&M. Now I can just decide to go. I can go to Illinois. I can go to Duke. I can go to North Carolina. I can go wherever it is that I want to go. I don't have to wait my turn for you, and I don't have to be the depth for you when I can go get money and go play somewhere else. So now when that number 1 running back gets hurt, I don't know what's going to be behind him. Because the dude that I was kind of dependent on him to back up him left to go to another school. He went to what happened? Well, that receiver went to the University of Houston. Our backup quarterback, who we really needed in case our quarterback got hurt, he didn't wait for us. He went someplace else and where he could start, which is what everybody wants to do. They want to get prepared. They want to play, and they want to be prepared to go to the next level. And the sooner they can do that, the better it is for them. They're going to get some more money. They're going to get to play, and they don't have to sit around to help you win a national championship. So I think coaching is going to be more important. I think depth is going to be more important. And I think this roster management altogether is going to be more important than it has ever been, because roster management is now not just recruiting, it's also retention. It's also how much can we use to keep our own players. People talk about that NIL, all the NIL and all the collective money that was spent on Ohio State spent, and they don't talk about how much money they spent retaining their own players, keeping Ennis, keeping Tui Molau, keeping Jack Sawyer, keeping these players that really had an opportunity to go pro or had an opportunity to go play for somebody else. And they spent that money to keep the guys on their own team to make this run. And it worked. So good for them. So that's why I think the SEC is their reign of dominance, I believe, is over. That you can see the coaching is a little diluted. You're not seeing as great a quarterback play. You're not even seeing great as receiver play. You don't. It's not. It's just not as dominant. And I don't think it's going to be as dominant because I think the majority of the players, there'll be a lot of talent that goes to the SEC, but I think the Big Ten will just swoop in and take the best ones. and add that to their great offensive line, add them to that great defensive line, add that to the elite coaching and the elite individual training, and they're going to start winning the championships now. You heard it. I mean, I wouldn't say you heard it here first, but those are the reasons why I think they're going to get it done. That's my time. Take it easy.